Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's 5Links webinar training. My name is Mike Gilbert. I am the General Manager of 5Links Mobile Marketing, and tonight I'm presenting a new training, something a little bit off the beaten path from what we normally do. Instead of being actually product specific tonight, we're going to actually talk about some strategies and some tactics to actually be more successful in selling business to business, or sometimes as we call it B2B. Normally with 5Links, the majority of your interactions with your warm market are to sell the consumer products. But as the last couple of years have developed with 5Links, we've developed more and more business-to-business related products such as credit card processing, text alerts, even commercial energy. And so we wanted to take some time and actually help you learn some of the tips and tricks and tactics that professional salespeople all across the country use to sell these types of services in that environment. Because it is a different experience selling a business-to-business product than it is selling a consumer service to your friends, relatives, and warm contact base. So tonight we're going to talk about some tactics that really cross the gamut. It isn't for any one specific product. The tactics we'll teach tonight and that I'll be talking about will work whether you're selling text alerts or 5Links Energy or even commercial security systems, Enhanced Care MD, the new optimized mobile website product, MLS alerts to realtors. It doesn't really matter what the product is. The key is that there's some very standard techniques and strategies that can be used to make that job easier for you and ultimately be more successful. Because if you're successful selling business-to-business products with 5Links, you can make a lot of money because the compensation generally is much higher on the business-to-business products, and you can actually really accelerate your monthly earning potential by targeting these types of products and going after the business community. So let's jump right in. What I've done is I've actually outlined 6 different secret techniques that we have found work very, very successfully. And I've tried to put them in the proper order so that if you're taking notes, this is actually the procedure you'll want to follow and start implementing so that you can start closing more business and getting more customers in your organization. So secret number 1, it'll sound basic, but it's extremely important. And that is you have to make time. You have to make time to focus on business-to-business sales. We're all busy in our daily life. We need to set aside a certain amount of time, whether it's a certain amount per day, maybe it's 20 minutes a day, or maybe you spend 2 hours on a specific day of the week, one time a week, and you earmark that time to be focused on prospecting and approaching and talking with businesses to market the 5Links suite of business-to-business products. You want to be realistic. Don't start getting visions of grandeur where you're going to make 200 customer club by next Thursday. Okay? If you try to do it all at once, you're going to get burned out and you're going to have some bad experiences, and then you're going to not want to go back to the well. So I'm a big advocate for being realistic, setting realistic goals, especially in the beginning. Walk before you run. And I think one way to start is, how about just making 10 contacts a week to a business? And it could be 2 times you're contacting them about text alerts, and 3 of the contacts you're talking about commercial energy, and 1 of the contacts you're going to bring up the idea of the business security product or satellite television. It really doesn't matter how you slice and dice the product mix. But if you just focus on making that objective of, okay, you know what, two times a day I'm going to reach out to some business somewhere about one of our products. Or maybe it is that you line it up on one day and you go and you just fly through a list of 10. Maybe you have 20 on your list, but you just go after 10 just to be realistic, just to get your feet wet, and just to get some positive reinforcement. But keep a running list. Even though you're going to only contact maybe 10 businesses a week, write out all the businesses you can think of on a sheet of paper or in a spreadsheet, and keep that a running log. Every time you go out to eat dinner, you should be writing down that name of that restaurant. Every time you shop at a store, every time you hire a contractor, every time you do anything that involves doing business with somebody else or your exposure to that, maybe you get the weekly you get the Sunday paper, go through and write down the names of the businesses that are advertising in your Sunday paper. Keep a running journal, a running list of prospects, so that you can then take some of the other strategies that we're about to talk about and actually implement that and make your 10 contacts a week. And now once you get going and you're successful and you're signing up customers, you can increase that from 10 contacts to 20 to 30, but just start somewhere where it's manageable and reasonable. The key thing to remember is consistency pays. You're better off talking to 10 businesses a week for 10 straight weeks than trying to talk to 100 businesses today and never doing anything else for the next 10 weeks. Consistency pays, just like it does in your 5 Links business, it pays when you're prospecting for customers in your business. Now let's talk about secret number 2. This is something that not enough, even professional sales people, actually do properly, and it really jeopardizes and sabotages their ability to make sales. And that is, you have to do your homework. You need to know about the business you're prospecting. Gone are the days of a cold, vanilla, business-to-business sales pitch where only the product matters and you're forcing a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't work that way anymore. The competition is too fierce. You need to understand your prospect's business, and you need to go to them with an already predetermined solution that's going to solve something of theirs. So learn about their business. Review their website. Make sure you understand what they do. Don't make any assumptions about what their line of business is. Their website's going to reveal a lot to you. It's going to reveal things like how they market their business, what kind of customers they're really going after, how much they seem to invest in their business, maybe by the quality of their website, for example. Read the blog on the website. See what's going on in their business. See what kind of challenges they're facing. See what kind of new areas they're trying to get into that maybe will spark an idea for you that one of our products will be a perfect fit for. Understand where they're trying to go. This is just like if you were going for a job interview with that business. You're going to want to know what they do, how they do it, and what you can bring to the table. Think of this as a job interview, only the product is the candidate. And you want to make sure that by the time that you get in there and you have that, you've taken your time as well as theirs to go in and talk with them. Make sure it's worth both your time by having done the homework in advance. And identify their challenges. We call these the pain points. Try to identify what you think is their most significant pain point in their business, and then find the product in our set of products that maybe fits that best. So for example, maybe they're really showing a need to cut costs on their website. Maybe they're representing that to their customers, that they're doing some things to cost cut. Well, that might be a perfect inroad to talk about our commercial energy product. Because with commercial energy, you're never really asking for any money up front, unlike some of the other products. You're going in there with an opportunity for them to save on a commodity that they're already paying for and that they may need, and they may be looking for ways to trim that cost. So just have your eyes open to what those opportunities are. Now, secret number 3, this to me is the biggest mistake I see 5 Links representatives specifically making. When I go to the national events and I talk with folks generally about the Text Alerts product line, this is the mistake I hear all the time. And that is that you're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the customer. You're telling them all about our satellite, and you're telling them about energy, and you're telling them about text, and you're telling them about how we can do credit card processing. And oh, by the way, we can do your mobile website, and we have a medical service, a discount plan for your health care. It's too much, and in a business environment, that's going to blow your prospect out of the water, because they're going to think that you're not great at any one thing. And so they're not going to have the trust. So you don't want to throw the kitchen sink at them with our product set. This is where that homework comes in, doing your research. You want to find one product to initially lead in and talk with them about. Just pick that one product that you think is the best match for them and lead in with that. Avoid the temptation in that first appointment to talk about all the other services that they could eventually sign up for with us. Just gear in on that one, because people can only make one decision at a time. And so if you give them 5 decisions to make, they will make 0 decisions, and that's not going to help either one of you. The best way to go, pick the easiest and most relevant product. Now, easiest might sound like it should be the least expensive, or even the one that doesn't cost anything initially, like energy, for example, but that's not always the case. Sometimes the easiest might just be where the biggest need is. Maybe they don't have a mobile website, and you know that. Maybe you went to their site on your mobile phone, and it was a very clunky experience, and you thought immediately, wow, they'd be perfect for optimize.net. Or maybe it's a bar, and you went in, and they've got terrible reception on the TV because they're trying to use rabbit ears or whatever it is, and they're not getting any good signal for their patrons to see the football game. Well, then maybe you start with satellite as the solution. You pick the easiest, most relevant to them, not the easiest, most relevant to you. And then sell just that service first. That builds trust. At the end of the day, what you want is a customer. You don't want 5 customers yet. You just want a customer that you can keep satisfied and happy, and ultimately will lead to other business. So get that first service signed up first. Give them everything you've got to build trust and confidence in the company and credibility, and then the sky's the limit later on. Because now you will always have a door open to you to go back in and cross-sell the other services after the sale. And when I say post-sale, I don't mean as soon as they sign the agreement for one service, you turn around and try to sell them the next service. No, this is days, maybe even weeks later in some cases, to make sure that they're happy and satisfied with the one service they have. Do everything you can to make sure they're satisfied there. And then when they've expressed to you that things are going well, that's the perfect inroad and opportunity to sell the next service to them. Secret number 4. I liked this photo because it was humorous, but it makes the point I'm trying to make. This is an important aspect of trying to get in the door and trying to ease your way, because this is where most 5LINX representatives struggle. They're not necessarily afraid to talk to people, because that's one of really your strengths in many cases, but it's that intimidation factor of reaching out to a business owner and trying to get their attention, trying to respect their time, trying to make sure that when you walk in that you're given respect as well, because there needs to be mutual respect. So secret number 4 is very simple. Break the ice. Okay? You want to break the ice with your prospect because you want to establish familiarity. People want to do business with folks they know, like, and trust. If you just walk in the door cold and it's lunchtime and it's a restaurant and you want to talk to them about credit card processing, they're going to treat you like they've treated every other person that walked in at noon trying to sell them credit card processing in the middle of lunch hour. They're going to send you on your way. You need to establish tactics. Once you've done your research, because the research is a big part of it too, knowing about their business and coming in with a solution. But now you need to find, if at all possible, an inroad to be able to have that conversation from a position of strength. Make mutual connections. LinkedIn is a great way to do this. If you know you want to prospect a specific business, go on LinkedIn, see if that person, that owner, or that manager is connected to anybody that you're connected with through however many layers you need to get to, and try to see if you can get an introduction through LinkedIn to be connected to that person, and maybe even start a conversation at that point about stopping in and maybe showing them a solution that you've got for their business. Another great technique, if you are going to be prospecting, let's say you're just literally going down Main Street in your town to sell some of the services because you know there's some great prospects there, a very effective tactic is to email your prospects in advance, maybe a day or two or even a week earlier, to say something like, hey, I was in your business the other day. I noticed that with your high ceilings, your energy bills must be pretty significant. I've got a solution that has helped a couple other businesses in town, and I wanted to share it with you. I'm going to be stopping in next Thursday in the afternoon. Let me know if that time would be good for you, or let me know if that time isn't good for you. It doesn't matter really how you close that out, but you're setting the stage. And a couple things happen there. If they absolutely don't want you visiting, they now have an opportunity to reply and tell you no thanks, and you're not going to waste your time going in there. They're just not a prospect. It helps you pre-qualify. But they also might reply back with interest, and then you can start a dialogue there, and now you actually have familiarity before you walk in the door. Or most commonly what will happen is they simply won't reply at all, but that's okay. Because now when you go in and visit, you can say, hey, I sent you an email a week ago, or I sent you an email a couple days ago. I was just following up on that as I said that I would. Or if you call them after you send an email, you can say, I'm calling regarding the email. And maybe you're getting the gatekeeper when you call. Well, now that's going to get you through the gatekeeper because you're referencing an email that you really did send. And that's going to allow that call to go through to the decision maker and get you one step closer to talking to the right person. So that little extra step, that 1 minute it takes to send an email out, can go a long way towards opening the door. And this is a great tip. If you are going to send that email, send something else with it of value. Send some content that actually speaks to that customer and shows that you did do your research and that you do care about their business. So for example, if you find an article in the paper, or there's a tweet that you received with a link to an interesting article, send that link or send that article to your prospect and say, hey, I saw this article in the local paper and it made me think of you. Or it sounded like the same kind of challenge you're probably facing, and I have something that might help with that. When you give people value, first of all, statistics and studies show that if you send a link to people, very, very, very often that link is clicked. And that's key, because that's really getting you in the door. But secondly, it shows that you're doing your homework. It shows you're relevant, and that you are not just an amateur just poking around and blasting out to people, throwing darts against the wall. It actually creates a one-to-one relationship that people will respect and honor, and you might even get a thank you email back, which how great would that be if they thank you for the content you sent. Now you definitely have an excuse and a reason to go and visit them in person. Secret number 5. We've only got a couple left. This one is really where the rubber meets the road. Trust. As I said earlier, people buy from folks that they know, like, and trust. But trust can be hard to establish, especially when you didn't know that person going in. So we're going to talk about a couple ways that you can build that trust and actually shortcut that relationship, to get to that point in the relationship where you can actually make an ask, or ask for the sale, so to speak. One really key way to do that is simple. Just demonstrate interest in them and in their business. People are attracted to other people who have the same interests or who are interested in their business. So if you go in, when the first time you talk or the first time you meet with that business owner or that manager, express genuine interest in what they do. Ask them questions about what they do. Find out how they got into that field to begin with. There's an endless number of ways that you can show that it's not about you, but it's really about them. Don't pitch. Don't go right in and start talking about how great your service is. They don't care how great your service is. And that's a hard thing for salespeople to understand. It's a hard thing for us product people like myself to understand, because we get so involved in all the bells and whistles and features of our product, we think it's all about the product. It isn't about the product. And so don't pitch. Ask questions. Create a dialogue. What will happen is the solution will present itself, and the product becomes the answer to the need. The product becomes the solution. And that's all they really care about. They really don't care about the product per se. So ask as many questions as you can. As they always say, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you speak. People love to hear themselves talk. And as salespeople, we tend to be that way. But we want to listen to the other person. Get them engaged. Get them talking. They will. And the great thing about that is not only does that get them engaged and excited and enthused, but you will be amazed at what you'll learn about their business from what they open up to you about. And from what you learn, you can tailor a solution to exactly what their needs are. You see, you might have done your homework, and you might have gone in there and based some of those first questions on the homework you did about what you think are their challenges and some of the goals and objectives. But then when you actually listen to them and they answer you, you're going to get a whole nother set of insight. And you can then combine all that information and tailor a solution. You might have gone in with the intent of selling them text alerts, but you might hear what they have to say and actually sell them on enhanced care, because they talk about how maybe the Affordable Care Act has had an impact on them and their employees. So by listening, you get the solution. That turns you into a trusted expert, not a salesman or a saleswoman. This is where trust really comes into play. If you actually listen and then your feedback to them is based on what they said, immediate respect is created and immediate trust is created. It's kind of like when you ask a politician a question and they never really answer the question, they answer back what they intended to say all along. If you approach selling that way, they're going to turn you out and put you out on the street. Okay, they're going to tune you out. But if your answers back to them and your solutions back to them are directly related to the information they just gave you, that builds trust, because they know you're not just there to pitch one thing, that you're there to give them solutions and to help them. And then here's the thing. You will not always make the sale on the spot. Sometimes it'll happen. We certainly have great experience on our end of the house here with text alerts and MLS alerts and church alerts, literally walking in, doing a demonstration, and walking out with a customer. That can be done for a $60 a month product pretty easily. But there are many, many other cases where the customer still wants to think about things, or they have some research to do, or there's questions that you have to come back and get answered for them. Whatever the case may be, follow-up is the key. Because this goes along with trust. What often happens, and what those business owners are experiencing on a regular basis, is that people call them, people email them, people visit them, they pitch them on an idea or a product, they try to make the sale, they don't make the sale on the spot, and that business owner never hears from them again. At that point, it doesn't matter to the business person whether there was value or not in the product that was trying to be sold. That lack of follow-through ruins all the trust that existed and discredits you and your business and your product as not being genuine. Studies have shown that only about 50% of people actually make a second follow-up. Now that's pretty incredible when you think about it. When people are making their living in some cases dependent on that follow-up, it's pretty incredible that only half actually do that. But what's even more incredible is that only about 15% of people make a third follow-up, and only about 5% of people make a fourth follow-up. By the time you get to 7 follow-ups, you're down to about 2% of salespeople actually make that 7th follow-up. Now that could be by phone, in person, email, a letter, a card, whatever it might be. It all counts as follow-up. We call those touch points. Be prepared to, if it's a real prospect that really was interested, engaged in the product, and has potential, if you're willing to make those 6 or 7 contacts until the sale is made, you will be phenomenally successful, because only 2% of people actually go through that process. And those 2%, not coincidentally, those are the master salespeople. Those are the millionaire salespeople, because they get a yes, because they don't stop until they get a yes. And believe it or not, the business owner, the prospect, wants that follow-up. They don't want you to disappear. They want to know that you're still there, still looking for solutions for them. And if you work those 7 follow-ups to get 1 customer, that might seem like not a great trade-off of your energy. But if you get that customer, you're going to get all of your services with them, and they're going to give you referrals. And so that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. The end-all, be-all of all of this effort that we put in, is the power of referrals. Your real goal when you go into an appointment, if you think of it from this mindset, you'll be way ahead of the curve on this, okay? Because most people go into a business and try to sell them on a product, and they're just hoping to come away with a customer. That's their goal. Face it, probably all of you, the first few times you've gone and tried to sell a service, your goal was to sell the service to that customer, and there really wasn't much else in your mindset there. But really, if you think of it from this perspective, a referral should be your ultimate goal. Now, why is that? Well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you were to get a referral, that means you have a happy customer. You can't get a referral without a happy customer. But number two, it helps you multiply yourself. And it keeps you from having to do the hard, heavy lifting that you did in the beginning to get this first customer, because you had to build the trust. You had to break the ice. You had to establish contact. You had to do all the hard part with this customer. But by getting referrals, they do all the hard work for you. They make the introduction. They make the connection. They give the testimonial. They create the trust. And so it makes it 10 times easier to get the customer. But you must ask for the referral. Whether or not you get the sale, you should be asking your prospects, do you know anybody else that might benefit from this service? One of two things will happen. If they sign up for the service, they'll be happy to share that information because they're happy with the service they got. Or if they didn't sign up for the service, to be honest, they'll feel a little bit guilty. Everybody feels a little bit guilty about not signing up for a product when someone asks. So out of that guilt, they'll provide you with some referrals. It's almost a sure thing, but you have to ask. They're not going to volunteer that up. And this is where it really comes to crunch time. Like I said earlier, the easiest sale you're ever going to make is a referral from a happy customer. So think of that first customer as the hard part. All the tactics we just talked about, That gets you that one customer. But that customer's worth more than just their own account. And that's what should excite you when you do get a new customer, quote unquote, the hard way, is you should be excited because that one customer will turn into two, and that those two customers will turn into 3 or 4, and so on and so forth. You're going to drill down into those customers and continue to get referrals, because by them advocating for you, by them sharing and creating trust and awareness, your job is infinitely, infinitely easier. So I hope that helped. This presentation, of course, is being taped. So if you weren't on this call live, or if someone in your organization wasn't on this call live, it will be available on playback at webinars.5links.com. But I want to leave you with one final word, because it really wraps up all of what we just talked about here. And again, what we talked about was not product specific. It's really about just a general approach to doing business that many of us are not exposed to until we really get into the world of selling B2B. So this is the final thought for you. Business customers respond best to a sales pitch that is tailored as much as possible to their needs and their circumstances. If you remember only that from this presentation tonight, I think you'll do very well. Because if you focus on solutions, if you focus on understanding what the customer wants and giving it to them, because that's really what sales is, finding what the customer wants and offering it to them, you'll end up with more customers than you could have ever imagined, and that'll turn into referrals, and that'll turn into points in your organization, and 100 customer club checks and 200 customer club checks, and pretty soon you'll be on stage training what we're talking about here tonight. So with that, I do want to wish all of you a great night, and invite you to share this webinar replay with your organization. Again, if they go to webinars.5links.com, this will be available for replay. And I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you all at the next international event. Thank you. I'm Mike Gilbert.